Hey everyone, welcome back to Papa's Workshop. When you're remodeling a house that's over 50 years old, there's some design changes that need to take place. In this particular case, I need to be able to have a private access from the bedroom to the bath. And that means knocking a hole in the wall. And today that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how to add a door, knock that hole in the wall, and create that private entry from the bedroom to the bathroom. As you're standing in the bedroom looking at this wall, this is the only place that I have the opportunity to be able to put in the door. And there's an outlet in the way on top of that. And if you look on the bathroom side, you see that diagonal 2x4 there. That's the actual roof. So again, there's very little space to be able to fit this in. There's just enough room to be able to put this door in. This bathroom is going through a complete remodel. Everything is being gutted out of it. All of the old tile is being removed, and we're starting from scratch. Now these two 2x4s right here for these studs are going to have to be removed, and that outlet has to be removed also. So there's a lot of work to do here in this bathroom, but today we're going to concentrate just on being able to put this door in. Now I've already turned the power off and I've disconnected the wiring, and I'm rerouting this outlet over to another area, and I'm actually going to have to add an additional outlet in the bathroom because this wire is going to be too short when I move it over far enough away to be able to have it outside of the door area. The good thing is the wire that they have run to this bathroom is actually a 12 gauge wire. Now it's not the same color as what you're used to seeing because again, this house and of course this wiring is over 50 years old. Now that the outlet is out of the way, the wiring's out of the way, it's time to be able to cut these studs. And you notice the top plate is right where the top of the door is. This ceiling is low. Yeah, it really is. And there's barely enough room to be able to put this door in. But we've cut the studs at the top and we're cutting the sheetrock out to make the opening. I want to be able to cut the sheetrock exactly where it needs to be cut because I don't want to have to be involved in additional painting on the bedroom side of the wall. So we're just taking the Sawzall with that line marked exactly where it needs to be and cutting straight down the wall to create this opening. And the Sawzall makes very quick work of it, and it's a lot better than trying to do a utility knife for this particular point. And you can see we got off the line there a little bit and had to back up, but that's okay. That's cutting on the door side and not the wall side. So we're not going to have to do any additional painting. And as you look at the top of where this door is going to be, you can see that we're right up next to that ceiling. This is not an 8-foot ceiling. These ceilings in the bedroom, and of course you saw in the bathroom, is definitely lower than our typical 8-foot tall ceiling. So again, we only had one small little place that we could put this door in where it would actually fit. Having a Sawzall doing the remodeling work is an essential tool. Not only does it allow me to cut straight lines with the sheetrock, but also it easily allows me to cut these studs out of the way. Now the utility knife is being used here to be able to cut straight down the wall, and I'm actually 1.5 inches away from that stud. There will be another stud that will go right against this one, and that will create part of that door frame. On the bedroom side again, you can see the door shape is coming into play because of all the cut lines, and you can see why it was so important to be able to move that outlet, because that would have been right in the door. And the outlet just moved over to the right, so it wasn't a big deal. But now it's finally time to open up this wall and be able to start to see what it's going to be like to have a door in this bedroom leading into the bathroom. That is going to be so much nicer. At this point, I can take the Sawzall and finish cutting out these studs and be able to remove them. Now it was a lot easier to be able to wait until the sheetrock was removed to finish cutting through the 2x4. And at this point, it's really quite easy. But in addition to removing these two 2x4 studs, we also have to remove this bottom plate. And again, this Sawzall is a lifesaver for this, because you can actually mark exactly where it needs to be and just cut straight through the 2x4 and remove it and get it out of the way. The next step was to add the additional 2x4s to create the opening for the door to go into, and then secure the sheetrock to it. Again, the whole goal of this was to make sure that the sheetrock was the exact opening that we needed, so that we did not have to worry about doing any additional painting, because this wall, quite frankly, had already been painted, and we didn't need to be able to go back and do any touch-ups if we were careful. As far as that outlet I talked about earlier, this is where we relocated it, just off to the right of where the door was located, and that was a perfect place for it. Now this is a metal box. You don't see that very often, but again, this house is about 50 years old. So the wiring had been completely done. The box is finished now, so that part is completed. The framing for the door is done. The sheetrock is screwed in. So all of the basic framing and this work right here is all done. Now it's time to be able to prepare the door and be able to get it where we can install the door into this opening. Now this side of the room looks really nice. Everything is secured and finished. Let's take a look on the inside. This is that double 2x4s that I put in, the header across the top, and you can see I barely had enough room. And this was that additional 2x4 that I added on the left side. Now this is the outlet that I had added on the bathroom side. Of course, I added the GFI circuit to it, and this was the best way to do it since the wire was not going to be long enough. And now that all this is completed, I can turn the power back on, verify that the circuit is complete and it is operational. Let's get to building the door frame now. This is the kit that I'm using. It's an interior door jamb kit, and it has the left and right side, and of course it has the top side. Now that top header piece is actually set up for a 36-inch door. And since I'm putting in a 30-inch door, that will have to be cut to be able to fit. As far as the two sides, really should not have to cut those at all. The nice thing about these kits, on the top side, this rabbet is already cut to be able to receive that header piece. So that's the nice feature that I don't have to worry about. Here you can see the door itself. And this is where I'm using a 30-inch by 80-inch door, and this is an interior door. Now this door actually had been used on another project before, and it was extra, so that makes it even better. As far as the mortise location for these hinges, this is actually in the wrong place. So I'll have to be able to make some adjustment there to modify this so that it'll fit the opening. As far as the door jambs itself, there are no mortises on the door, so that actually will work out real well. I can put them exactly where I need to. And here I'm just marking the mortise so that I can actually transfer that information and cut the mortise over onto this side. Now this door was originally a right-hand door, and what I'm doing by moving this mortise location is making it where it will be a left-hand door. Small, minor change, but it makes a big difference. At this point, I'm putting the door jamb up, align it where it needs to be, and I can transfer the pencil mark from the door over to that door jamb, and I can get the exact location on where it needs to be. And this is very, very critical to be able to make sure that everything is working properly. And now I'll do the same exact thing on the bottom hinge to make sure that I have that marked as well. Now you'll also notice on this door jamb that the door stop is not there. Now this is where it will, approximately where it'll go, but we'll add that later. I'm not ready to put that in. The first step is to be able to cut these mortise out. Now the hinges that I'm using are these. It's a 3.5-inch brushed nickel hinge that's going to be perfect for this application. And to be able to cut that mortise, I'm using this jig. Now this is a jig that I've had for many years, and you have probably seen it in some of the other videos. All I have to do is to line this jig up with the lines that I had marked earlier, and then just screw it to the door jamb. Now since this is a wood door jamb, it's not a problem just being able to screw this in. If this was an exterior door frame, for an example, and it was a PVC frame, more than likely I would use some hot glue or another method to be able to secure this jig in place. But since this is an interior door jamb that's made out of wood, using these two little small screws is not an issue at all. Now this router is set up with a bushing, and it's all set up with a 1/2 inch straight bit to be able to cut this out. And as you might expect, this is a dedicated, very old router that I've had for many years. And this one, I only use it to be able to cut the mortise on the door frames, and it does a remarkable job. Now you notice I cut just a small little bit, and that way I can test the depth of that mortise just to make sure that nothing had moved on the router. Once I verify the depth of it with that hinge itself, then I can go ahead and cut out the rest of the mortise with this router. And that way I know it's going to fit perfect, and I know the depth is going to be perfect also. Now I like to run around the outer edge first, and then once that's done, then I can just move left and right, back and forth, to be able to cut out the interior portion of the mortise. Once that's all done, I can set the router aside and just take this jig off and move it down to the other hinge location and cut out that mortise. As I mentioned earlier, this little small jig I've had for years and years, and quite frankly, I don't even remember where I got it. And I know there's some fancier jigs out there to be able to do the mortise, but why buy one of those when this one works extremely well? And it does have some little drop-in templates to be able to have different size hinges. All depends on what you need. I always like to test fit after I cut the mortise just to verify that it fits perfectly into that mortise, and you can see that it does. At this point, I'm ready to mount the hinge. So I just drop it into the mortise, and I like to use a pencil just to go ahead and mark where those screw holes are. Now this step really isn't necessary, but it's something that I've been doing for years, and I guess it's an old habit that's hard to break. To be able to drill the pilot holes, I'm using a self-centering drill bit. This works extremely well to make sure that the screw holes are exactly where they need to be in these hinges, and that way you do not have any unnecessary movement or where the hinge moves or anything that could cause a problem. Now that the pilot holes are drilled, I'll just take and screw in the screws, and the hinges will be mounted. Then I'll repeat the process on the other end of the door jamb, and I'm only putting 2 hinges on the door, and that's really all that's necessary. There's no real need to have a third hinge in the middle. I like to lay out everything and put it together and just do a dry fit just to make sure that everything fits. And I have the door stop in place, and it's just sitting there right now. The door is sitting there, but it's not mounted to the hinges yet. But once I know everything fits, then I'm ready to mount the hinges onto the door and get this job finished up. Off camera, I did take the chisel and trim out the extra part of the mortise that was necessary to be able to change this from a right-hand door to a left-hand door. And at this point, I'm ready just to screw in the hinges. And you'll notice on the bottom part of the hinge, you can see where the old mortise was. And that's okay. That is not going to cause a problem. And the only thing that will be necessary is to paint that area along with the rest of the door. Now that that hinge is completed, I just move down to the other end of the door and put the hinges in here. Now this gives you a little bit better view of what that mortise looks like in that old portion where it's cut all the way through from one side of the door to the other. And again, that does not cause a problem at all. The hinges just had to be lined correctly to be able to make this door sit correctly into this door jamb. And once that measurement was done, it was easy to be able to screw these hinges exactly where they need to be. Once that's done, let's just move over to the door frame itself, and I'm ready to nail this together. Now I'm using a 16 gauge 1¼ long staple. Moving on over to the door stop itself, these were pre-cut and tested earlier. I have a line that I've marked onto this door frame that I can use to line this up exactly where it needs to be, and then just staple it in. And for this, I'm using a 16 gauge 1" long staple to be able to put this door stop in. It's nice having the line already marked on there. That way I know exactly where it goes, and the door will fit into this opening perfectly. using that line that was pre-drawn onto the door frame. Now when I say that this doorstop was pre-cut and the line was pre-drawn on there, all that means is I did that earlier before I started stapling everything together. Because if you recall, this door jamb was designed for a 36-inch door, and you have to cut that header down to the proper size. As far as the spacing, you leave about 1/8 of an inch on each side of the door, plus you have that rabbet joint, and when you add those numbers together, that gives you the distance that you need to be able to cut that jamb. And then from there, you cut the door stops just to fit into that space. Now that all that's done, I put this little temporary piece of scrap wood on the bottom to keep this door frame together, and I have created a pre-hung door. The only thing that's left is to add the molding. And again, I'm going to mark with a pencil exactly where I want that molding to be. Now that reveal is roughly about 3/8 of an inch, and I just mark that with a pencil, and that makes putting on the molding so much easier than just trying to eyeball it. This first piece of molding across the top, you just measure. I'll take it over to the chop saw and cut it at the 45-degree angle. Having that line already marked onto the door jamb makes being able to set this miter up very easy. You know exactly where you need to mark it and cut it. Having the casing installed on this door frame makes it much easier to be able to install the door into the opening. Because literally all you need to be able to do is slide this door into the opening that we created earlier, and the casing actually gets the spacing exactly right. All you have to be able to do is make sure that the door is centered in the hole, and get a level across on the hinge side, make sure that that is completely plumb, and start nailing it in. So the door installation is a whole nother video, but it is very easy to be able to accomplish. So at this point, let me finish up this casing, and I'm going to take this door over and install it in the house. Now really all I've done is build a pre-hung door and saved a whole lot of money in the process of doing that. As far as the skill, it doesn't take a whole lot of skill. It's a very easy step-by-step process that you can do. And once you finish, I'm going to take this, put it in the back of the truck, and bring it over to the home that we're remodeling. It's really going to be nice having that private entryway from the bedroom into the bath and update this home considerably from where it was. And here's a look at the door installed in its new home, and it's going to be fantastic. The only thing that's going to be left to do, a little bit of caulking, put on the doorknob, and it's finished. Here's a quick look at the finished bathroom with the vanity and the countertop that we made, and I did this in a previous video. This type of project is a lot of fun to do. I want to thank everybody for watching this video today. It was a lot of fun being able to knock a hole in the wall and add a door. And the most important thing is I hope that you saw just how easy it is to be able to build the door frame and put the door in it rather than buying a pre-hung door. You save tons of money that way, and it's not that difficult. So if you like this video today, by all means, give me that thumbs up, and don't forget, while you're there, hit that little subscribe button right down there and the bell notification so that you won't miss out on any of the videos that I'm uploading. So for now, I want to say bye-bye, but I can tell you this, I look forward to seeing each one of you in the shop real soon. So bye-bye.